Hey guys, it's Brendan Air. Before we get started, if you like the show, make sure you subscribe, rate it, review it. All that stuff helps. Follow us on social media, Shitbrains Show on every platform. We even got YouTube. We got a Facebook group. And if you want bonus content, go to patreon.com/shitbrainshow. And if you have questions you want answered on the podcast, hit up shitbrainshow@gmail.com. Enjoy the program.
My brain is shit, man. It's shitty. Like it doesn't function properly. It just does whatever it wants. Life's still pretty good. This is Shit Brains.
Yeah, I'm rolling right now.
Oh, thanks for the fucking heads up, man.
We're 2 seconds.
Shut up.
We're
Wait.
2 seconds.
You can't just spring that on us,
Yeah.
Jeremy.
Welcome to the Shit Brains Show, you shit brains. You know, where we sometimes talk about mental health, whatever else is on our minds. A lot of people compare us to Lester Holt.
Many people.
I'm here as always with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy, how are you doing?
Doing good, man. Fucking a little beat up after this weekend.
All right, we're going to get into that. But first, I'd like to introduce our guest. I'm super excited to have a guy here today. You were an inspiration to me when I started because you hadn't been doing it that much longer than me, but you were already working. And that was very impressive to me to see a guy getting paid. And so I'm here. We're joined with a fantastic stand-up comedian and the co-host of the Alan Cox Show on WMMS here in Cleveland, Bill Squire. Bill, how you doing, man?
Hey, thanks, man. When did you start? Because I feel like I was maybe 4 years in or so.
Yeah, you were like a solid road feature.
Yeah.
I have like 11 years maybe.
Yeah. So I've been doing it 17 now. So yeah.
So maybe I have like 12.
Yeah,
but like you were like a solid road. So you have been doing it a lot.
I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
17, Jesus.
Yeah, right. I started May of 2004. And that was like my goal was just to never have a regular job.
Right.
And so, and that kind of hurt me at times because I'd always take money over festivals and stuff like that.
Right.
Because I also got married pretty young into a situation where I had stepkids, but I was like providing for them.
Right.
Which no one asked me to do. It just felt like the thing to do.
Right.
And so if it was like, oh, go to this festival or go make, $1,000 maybe doing, feature work with selling merch, I'm like, oh, I gotta go make the money.
I don't see how that fucks you. I think that's very
No,
smart.
but it does. No, it does.
What?
That's what sucks.
The
about this
networking part of
business.
it?
Yeah.
Well, because and I see it happen to, and I won't name names, but I do see certain guys here in Cleveland, and they whether they're my favorite comic or not doesn't matter. But like I see guys that will go take cruise ship work as young guys instead of going to New York and losing money for a little bit and fucking living off a credit card but getting that TV credit that allows you later on to bump up to bigger stuff. I do think I totally understand what you're saying because I see it happen a lot where it's like you get in that situation, you're like, you start working and once you are making the money, like I've seen it happen to guys where they're like, fuck this, I'm not moving to New York, I'm not moving to LA, there's no money there. Like I'm already making money,
Right. And then also just the attitude that you have to have in a city like New York where you really have to be all out for yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm not good at that.
No.
Yeah.
So when I do comedy around here, I can do shows that I'm bringing people on and help the scene. So like if I'm actually starting a new weekly show in Tremont here at High and Dry, and I'm excited about that because it gives us a place. I know how to run a good show. I know how to put together a show that's going to have an audience where we can go and, if you're in town, you can do 15 minutes, 20 minutes to work on stuff to see if it works on the road.
Right.
And it's not just some shitty open mic. It's a well produced, good show, and I like things like that.
Yeah.
And you get that in New York. It's literally just like we just need names. We need names. We need names.
Right.
It's and there are people that will bring you on to shows and stuff, but it's a lot more taxing if you're not someone that's constantly like, hey, I'm me. Like I need you to put me on.
Right. I often feel like Now, first of all, I should, in defense of New York and LA, I should say,
Fuck you, liberal pieces of shit.
I should say, I hope you fall into the ocean. No,
Yeah.
I was able to get up way more than I would have in Cleveland. Now, was that stage time better quality wise? Mostly not, you know, and like a lot of times I learned later on, a lot of times I was better served staying home and writing than going to some of those New York open mics. But, you know, I networked and like I met people and I was able to get some TV stuff. But as to what Bill's saying about having to be totally out for yourself, it's 100% true. And I feel like I honestly believe this, and this could be like just delusional, but I feel like if I could have like sat in a chair and played my career like a video game instead of actually having to do it and like feel the consequences, I think I could be famous right now because I would have just fucked everyone over and been a dick and hung out all the time and yelled out shit and been like the loudest, the squeakiest fucking wheel. And those are the guys that kind of like blow up.
Well, and that's one of those things because I'm on the Alan Cox show and you know, that puts me in a very nice place. Like I like doing talk radio. I work with people that I love. Like it's a really fun show, but there are definitely people that hate me on that show. And so they will always come at me in different ways. And one of the ways they like to try and come at me is to tell me that I'm some sort of failure as a stand-up comedian.
Right.
Because I'm not super famous. And that hurts my feelings because of how many great comics I know that are not super famous. I'm like, you guys haven't understand. Like, you're shitting on me right now, but you're shitting on a million fantastic comics because you think that the only way you're successful as a comic is if you are a household name.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Like, it's incredible the amount of guys I know that make really good livings. Really good livings, then no one knows who they are.
Ted Alexander is a great example of that. This is the dude that opens for Jim Gaffigan, and he used to go out and do more headlining shows, but like he's figured out a way to do well for himself without burning himself out.
Right.
And he's got a family, and he's you know, it's you look at a guy like that and you go, oh, I would love to have that.
Yeah.
And you know, you look at the Jim Gaffigan thing, and you're like, oh, that's great too, but that's so unobtainable.
Right.
But you can look at Ted Alexander and be like, I might be able to do something like that. Not even saying like I'm as good as him or anything like that, but I feel like I can carve out a life for myself while doing comedy. And that's the goal.
You sometimes got to start a mental health podcast and shoot up to superstardom.
Well,
hey, I love this podcast.
Oh, thanks.
It's great, man.
Yours is great too.
You've never listened.
That's true.
Similarly, like when I started on the road, I opened for Greg Warren. Now, some people might know Greg Warren, but he's like Ted Alexander. Probably he's not a household name, you know. But Greg has just like 7 or 8 solid albums that are all clean and they're all in rotation on satellite radio.
Yeah.
And it's like when you have that amount of material in heavy rotation, it's like you're making a lot of money.
You're making
year.
a lot of money. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how satellite pays the money that they pay.
I
but
have
it's
no idea.
It's insane. I mean, I know it's an expensive subscription, but it's like, what?
Well,
Yeah. You just put out a clean album.
Yeah, they took, man, that was a fucking kick in the dick.
How many did they take? How many tracks?
2 tracks out of the entire album.
Doesn't matter, dude.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I make all my money off. I mean, my shit's starting to slow down because I put the album out a while ago. But I made they took like 19 tracks.
Yeah.
I make all my money off 4 tracks.
Yeah.
And 75% of my money off 1 track.
Yeah.
So 2 tracks is fine.
I know, but it's still like,
No, surprisingly, some dumbass saluting cat joke that I don't like to do.
it's one of those things where, and then you see what like other people have done, and they took Mary's entire album,
Right.
And so you go, well, that's and it's great for her. But then when you go, okay, so the her album, I should be good, and they take two, and you're like, oh, it's not as good as this one. And you try to not compare yourself because I'm not trying to take anything away from Mary. Her album's fucking great, start to finish. I was like, I think mine's great, start to finish, and they're like, well, you're a white male. Sure. We don't really know you.
Do you remember
two tracks.
Do you remember when that they brought in that the guy to do Mary's album? He did your album too, but he's like, yeah, we're gonna record your sets. Maybe maybe they might want to pick something up. So if you want to, maybe be clean. And I just go out and I'm like, fucking cunt, instantly.
By the way, what's the name of your album so people can?
It's called Bam Bam.
Bam Bam.
And
okay.
what I'm going to do, I have a bunch of old albums that I recorded myself. I'm going to submit those and maybe get some more on.
Dude, yeah.
Now that I got info on how to do it now.
Yeah,
so
I mean, people will take it. And the nice part about, not to get too into
industry stuff,
that people don't need to hear, but nice part about probably those old albums, you'll probably get double if they take them because there's a artist side of the royalties and a producer side of the royalties, and if you did them yourself, you get both.
Which is what there's some tracks, and I shouldn't even probably talk about this, but there's tracks on those old albums where, like, if I were to get SNL, they'd be like, "Oh no, you didn't!" And they play this track, and they'd be like, "It seems like he's pretty racist." And I'm like, "That's not the satire gets lost on some people, but it's." But then I go back and listen to it, and I'm like it's funny because I'll listen. I forgot about this track, but it was blowing up on Pandora.
Right,
like it was getting all the. And I'm like, "What is that one about?" And I go back and I listen to it, and it's basically like knocking down stereotypes and just saying like how stupid stereotypes are dumb because we all like those things or we all do those things.
Yeah.
But then also being pretty racist at the same time. But I was also like,
the way you explained it sounds very tame.
I'm 27 years old doing this like at VFWs on the road, so like it was killing it. So I'm like, it's great. Obviously, this is a brilliant joke. And then I listen to it now, and it's like, and I say something like, "Asians drive better when they're drunk," something like that. Like, shitty, cheap jokes. But it in the country right now, there's a lot of people that are looking for that kind of, so they're just thumbing it up on Pandora.
Right, you're killing it now.
Yeah, you just go Owen Benjamin route.
But then they get mad because then they go listen to my other stuff and they're like, this isn't the same anymore.
This is not the guy that hates Asians. This guy actually seems to be pretty open-minded.
What is he? What are you, well-adjusted or something? What, you just growing as a human as you get older?
But so speaking of offensive jokes, Jimmy sent me a tweet, which, by the way, I'm mad at you about.
Why?
Because you can see that kind of shit, and it doesn't ruin your day. I saw it, and I got so mad. I was mad for 2 days.
This is it. That's the solution. Yep.
Yeah, I don't drink anymore.
Just zonk out.
I get so mad. Jeremy, by the way, we're coming at you from Golden Ox Studios. Jeremy Demery behind the boards. He'll probably chime in at some point with something fucking stupid. So this is Jimmy sends me this tweet that's blowing up. It's got like at the time I think it had even more, but it's from a guy named Donovan parentheses Crip Daddy handicap emoji at real young Crip.
But he's not just using the handicap emoji that's like the basic one. It's like the athletic one where the arms are cocked back. Like it's
look, motherfucker, you're not. You got the motorized wheelchair, and I will say that this one fucking surprised me because this has Jimmy's gonna love this tweet written all over it, just based off of the guy in a wheelchair. Then it takes a turn.
So, and this is already when Jimmy sent this to me, I'm mad because I read the tweet is, I used my first official comedy gig as an opportunity to open up and share some advice with everyone. Okay, play Donovan Crip Daddy's set.
More oftentimes than not, when people find out that this is what I want to do, they give me that same old fucking kind of reaction that's always like, "Oh wow, look at you, good for you. That's so brave." And let me tell you, man, when you're in a position to me in life, crippled, and you hear those words, it can't help but make you feel a little bad for them. Do you know how fucking sad and pathetic and unfulfilled your life has to be in order to find a guy in his late 20s doing stand-up brave? Just give up. That's my little piece of advice from me to you. If you think what I'm doing right now is brave, kill yourself.
Ooh. Not on this mental health podcast.
There's no saving whatever remnants of a life you have. It's not going to get better. Don't let people lie to you. Fucking kill yourself.
All right, stop it. So this is why I hate this motherfucker. This makes me so mad. And I'll
It's
tell you
not because he started 4chan.
He does. So for those of you not watching, he looks like the guy from the QAnon documentary. He's got the fucking wheelchair that's like with the booster seat. You're not only crippled, you're like midgetized.
Your
you know what I
arms
mean?
don't work.
And this is why I fucking hate this shit. Because first of all, I have absolutely no problem with someone disabled doing comedy, and I have no problem with them making the comedy about themselves being disabled. I could care less. There's a couple things going on here. First of all, I have a huge pet peeve of people thinking a joke is, and there's so many of these people. There are a ton of them in New York. People thinking a joke is, if you do this, kill yourself.
Yeah.
You haven't written a joke. Fuck you. You haven't written it. Like, that's not a punchline. It's not clever. Like, I just hate that in general.
It's the on crack.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Like the early 2000s. Like
exactly.
When we started doing comedy, there's like, it was like, yeah. If I was on crack, like that would be like, did you vote for George W. Bush? Yeah, because I was on crack. Like,
or they would say like, or even they'd use it on crack as like a giant water gun would be like, it was like a super soaker on crack. Like they do shit like that. Mm-hmm. But so first of all, I hate but second of all, here's it's fucking pandering bullshit.
Yes.
Because here's why it makes me mad. He's saying that he wants to be treated normally, right? Mm-hmm. He's saying like, oh, you're calling me brave? What's brave to want to do? It's brave. First of all, it is brave. It's brave for anyone who wants to do stand-up, and it's brave for someone who is disabled, especially to do stand-up, but that's besides the point. You're saying kill yourself because you shouldn't say I'm any different. I'm just a guy in my 20s trying to do stand-up. But then it's so fucking hypocritical because if he was a guy in his 20s just trying to do stand-up, the joke wouldn't work. You know what I mean? The joke only works because it's brave, because you're in a fucking...
Yes.
Because you're crippled. Like, it's just...
So you admit that the joke works.
The joke works, for sure. I mean, it killed. It killed, and there's like legitimate comics in the comments like loving it.
Yeah.
You know, like, but to me, I'm like,
really?
We need to go through their profiles and then find out what joke that they have that doesn't have a real punchline. Really just
but it's also,
just crack down on these kill yourself type punchlines.
Yeah, it's also like it's not. It's what do you call? It's like, you know, I guess you know, with Norm Macdonald dying recently, like, he was always such a proponent of like, your job is to be funny. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't like, you're not there to teach them. You're not there for fucking to be the smartest guy in the. You're not there to make a point. Be fucking fun. I hate that clapter, like, pandering bullshit where it's just like.
I also feel like he fucking, in that situation, he's like hijacking the laughs because it's rude to not laugh at that fucking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The whole thing's
guy.
fucked up. The whole premise is false too, because like, oh, people tell me this, and it's like, who told you that, man? Nobody fucking told you that. Like, you have friends that are just like, how brave? Like, what?
Your first time on stage.
Yeah, it's your first time on stage.
Fucking son of a bitch.
Yeah. Jimmy really seems to hate.
We definitely, as bunch of veteran comics. We're doing a good job of taking down this guy that's done comedy one time.
Right.
Well, it's only
this guy.
It's only that he's like blowing up, and Jimmy sent it to me, and he's like very cocky in the comments. He's like mad at people in the comments. Like,
Yeah, and that's the. I mean, there's not really a comparison to that anymore. Like, like when you started comedy, you didn't like you'd have those guys, but they'd just be cocky for like being able to get people to come to shows.
Right.
Like but now that you can go viral from a comedy clip, and then people are like, I got all these followers. I'm like, but what are they going to do when they come out to see you? Like, are you going to be able to?
Are you going to be able to do it?
Yeah,
You're going to
like-
be able to fucking do it.
Like
That's the question.
a good example, like Jason Banks, he blew up doing those sketches, and then people come out to see his stand up, and they're like, "Oh shit, this guy's
He's good.
fucking great at stand like that. It's better than his sketches."
Right.
And so they get like a nice treat. But there's plenty of YouTubers and stuff like that where they get there and they're excited because they're seeing a famous person to them, but they're kind of lying to themselves.
Right,
Where they're going
exactly.
like, that was so much fun. You're like, yeah, was it really? Or did you just enjoy seeing
And
someone
the smart
that you know?
ones, the smart ones know that was bad.
That was bad.
I've always wanted to. I've always wanted to do this, like first 6 month comedians when they like right when they get the delusion, right, and like they're like, yeah, man, I got to do an hour right now,
Yeah.
and just give them a fucking hour, promote the fuck out of it, pack the house out,
Yeah.
and just go, here you go, like here's
Right.
your night, and just watch it every time.
You usually don't even have to do that. Give them a hosting gig.
Yeah, one hosting gig.
One hosting gig at a real club, and that humbles people real fast.
real fast. Yeah.
I did. I mean, we all have our delusions, though. Like I remember, so I moved to New York in 2000. Was it 8 or 7? And I was only there for like a little bit because it just was. I was working the road a lot then, and I was just like, well, that's where I'm making my money, so it doesn't make sense. But the first week that I moved there, Opie and Anthony were having a comedy contest in Philly called the Car Crash Comedy Contest, and I was like, this is going to be great. I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to go to Philly. I'm going to win this Car Crash Comedy Contest. I'm going to be on the Virus Tour. And then things are just going to be fucking no problem. Like, I'm going to just fucking coast from there. And I get there. I take the train from New York to Philly. I go up. I'm the first one there. I get there like hours before it starts. Like, I got that all that young comedy energy where I could do anything. And then I walk out on stage, and as I say my first joke, I get hit with the reality of what a Philly Opie and Anthony fan is.
Oh fuck! Were you? Was that the Burr one?
It was that was the next night.
Oh no
It
shit!
was literally, you literally had to be Bill Burr to handle those fans.
And I'm like 4 years into comedy at this point, cocky as fuck, and I start with one joke. And they're just screaming at me. We want to kill you. We fucking hate you. We want to fuck your mom. Like just screaming stuff.
Yeah, good guys.
Yeah, good guys. And then and I got one joke over that Anthony liked, so that saved me. But then the rest of it was just more screaming and just slurs and shit like that. Yeah. And so, but like I walked off the stage, out of the venue, bought an Excella ticket to get back to New York because I didn't even want to hang out and watch it or anything because I was so destroyed. Because I'm like, that was my whole plan. I'm like, this is how I'm gonna get because I would listen to Opie and Anthony on the road, and I was pretty invested in a lot of those comics. I like those comedians like Patrice and Bill Burr and all those guys. And so when I got rejected, it just crushed me. And so I got home before that episode was even over. I was already back in my apartment in Queens at 9:30.
Yeah, that's fucking nuts. Like that second night with Burr, that's like one of the most famous stand-up sets anywhere.
I mean, it's up
and it
there,
ruined
similar to
Bill's confidence.
Yeah.
Fucking
Well, I did end up winning the contest a few years later, but
that's sick.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's similar to
and my confidence is all ruined for different reasons now.
yeah.
I remember what
It's that, Burr's set was similar to I'm blanking.
I remember the one time I did the Apollo and bombed, and then Bernie Mac came out the next day and was like, "I ain't scared, you
I was going to
motherfuckers."
say, it was like the Bernie Mac. Yeah.
I ain't scared. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite all-time.
I've been
so
rewatching the Bernie
because
Mac show, dude.
Like, and
Fucking
Bernie Mac
holds up.
Yeah.
Bernie Mac was like a great comic, but during that set, I Ain't Scared, you watch it and you're like, these jokes aren't that good.
Yeah.
Like, he's murdering, and you're like,
Does pussy taste like pumpkin pie? What is that? Where the fuck did that come from?
yeah.
But that's
Murdered.
That's the crowd, though.
Right,
You're
right.
playing
He
to
knew
that
what he was
crowd.
doing.
He knew what he was
exactly
doing.
what he was
You don't
doing,
have to be clever. You just have to be confident. And like,
I take my dick out, this whole room gets dark.
I'm blessed.
yeah, I'm blessed.
That sucks.
So,
DJ.
yeah.
Fuck, that's at rules. If anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, look up Bernie Mac. I ain't scared of you, motherfuckers.
Yeah, so what happened was, and it's kind of famous, Bernie Mac, so it was just a rough night at the Apollo. Everyone was bombing. It was like a Def Jam show. Everyone was bombing, and the crowd was just fucking brutal. And Bernie Mac didn't make it until he was older. So he was probably 40 during that set.
Yeah.
Maybe a little younger, but he was like living in his car. He was kind of destitute, and he kind of knew like this was his shot. So he just went out there and fucking murdered and just kept telling the crowd he wasn't afraid of him. And it's like, it's one of the greatest stand-up sets to watch. But we got to get down to business. Bill, enough comedy talk. You grew up Mormon,
Yes.
right? Like how Mormon?
So I grew up in Cleveland area. Like I
Right.
grew up in Medina, was born in Berea. Like,
Yeah.
so not as Mormon as someone that grew up in Utah.
Sure.
But it was in some ways more drilled into me because if you grow up in Utah, there's going to be other Mormon kids that are doing bad stuff.
Sure.
I didn't have that experience. I thought all the other Mormon kids were just as Mormon as me.
Right.
And then you find out years later, like, oh, they were all fucking around but we just
Right.
didn't do it around each other.
Right.
So there was just a lot of pressure to go on a Mormon mission. Like that was kind of the one thing that they go, once you're 19 years old, you got to go on a Mormon mission.
Right.
You got to go on a Mormon mission. You got to do that for 2 years. And so that kind of fucked my brain up where it's like, I'm not even going to try in school or anything like that because I know if I get into a college, I got to leave after a year.
Right.
Like it just really.
Oh, I've never thought of that
Good
part of
the
it.
mission.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like,
I mean, I knew it interrupted college, but I've never thought of it taking away the motivation. That's really interesting.
it completely sapped me of any motivation for anything because I was just I didn't feel like there was any reason to try and start my life until like because they kind of like you're not a fully formed person until you do this.
Right.
So until those 2 years were up, I had no idea who I was going to be or anything like that. So I was really just pretty avoidant of it, like where I was just like, I did live this double life where I would do some stuff. I was never like drugs or anything like that, but like sex was always very intriguing to me.
Right.
Ladies.
Yeah, ladies. And then I just liked having fun and like laughing. So comedy was like my drug. And my parents would be like, oh, we're not allowed to watch The Simpsons. We're not allowed to watch rated R movies.
Right.
And I loved them. Like I loved like The Simpsons and it wasn't even just like gross out humor, but just different ways of thinking.
Right.
So you get these ideas drilled into your head from religion where it's all about choosing the right thing to do to be on God's side. And then people make jokes about it and you're like, okay, this is a joke about religion, but it's also telling me that this religion thing might be kind of a scam.
It's intermission time.
Hey guys, it's Brendan. Sorry to interrupt. I just have to tell you, if you like the show, we do a bonus episode every week, plus tons of other content. Go to patreon.com/shitbrainshow. All right, back to the action.
We're happy to have you with us tonight and hope you'll come back often.
Right. So like early on, you were
Questioning it.
Yeah, and it was just it was questioning it, but then you just kind of reconcile it because you're just trying to make your parents happy.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
then as you get like a little bit older, like in high school, definitely towards the end of high school, as the mission got closer, you start getting even more and more like confused about why things are the way they are, and just religion and God in general. So it wasn't even just about my church; it was about
any
like
church, yeah.
any church. And I'm like, there's a
Like,
lot of
magic underwear.
yeah. Well, there's like a lot of answers or a lot of questions without answers, and then when you bring up like the magic underwear, that was something that was presented to me my whole life. So when people are like, it's so weird, I'm like, it is to you, but to me, it was just what my parents wore.
Right,
So it's
right.
like not like everybody's like, it's this crazy thing. I'm like, it's just like a t-shirt and like long, they basically invented boxer briefs.
Right.
So you got to thank them for that.
Thank you.
Well, Mormons are interesting because like
I think you're the only Mormon I know.
because Mormons are interesting because like I find out their beliefs and stuff, and I'm like, well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But I've kind of met a lot of Mormons, and they have always been like the nicest people I've ever met. It's
Yeah.
interesting, and like not in a way where I'm like, oh, these guys are nice, but like I think they're up to something.
No,
more
they're-
like I think
they're
they're just
pretty genuine
genuinely
people, yeah.
I think they're genuinely wholesome. Like
And,
now,
and that's why it's so hard to leave the church because
Yeah.
like these are nice, sweet people.
Yeah.
Now, what has seemed to happen with the church since I've left is you're getting two factions of the church that are the Trump Mormons, and then like the ones that are like, whoa, he doesn't really line up with our values,
Yeah.
guys, and it's
Sunni
real
and
weird.
Shia.
Yeah. Right. So it's
You get your 9/11 Mormons.
Yeah.
And then,
so it's
sorry.
pretty weird. But and then like the more I've learned about the church from people that aren't Mormon, like I listened to the whole last podcast on the Left series about Mormonism,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, this is stuff that they did a pretty good job of keeping from us.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like I never knew that Joseph Smith was a failed magician.
Right. Oh,
That's
yeah.
that's hilarious. And that's not somebody that you're not going to tell anybody that.
Yeah.
Because that's.
It's also funny because it's like, is he a failed magician or is he the most successful magician? You
Right.
know what I mean? Like,
him and L. Ron Hubbard.
he
Yeah,
failed
yeah,
at
like-
some small tricks,
Yeah,
but
yeah, he might not have the best sleight of hand, but
Yeah.
his ability to dazzle the mind was
Yeah.
up there.
it was interesting. I was in Provo recently, and
Nice brag.
like like if you didn't know, because I've been in Salt Lake City, and Salt Lake City is a cool town, and it's like there's a lot of Mormons, but I think it's like 35% or something like that. Provo, because Brigham Young is
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Provo is, I think, like 94%.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know that, you would think you would be freaked out. Like something's just off and you can't put your finger on it. And what it is just, it's like too clean. It's too, like everyone's too nice. Like everyone sort of looks the
hair's
same.
combed,
Everyone's
yeah.
hair is combed. Like it's like a
there's no-
Stepford Wives
yeah.
thing where
Yeah.
you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, but I knew that. So I kind of knew what was happening, but it's interesting. And so what,
So while we're on Provo, I lived there for a summer. So
is that where the training happens?
well, that was a couple years later.
Okay.
But like after I was out of high school, but I wasn't even really out because I didn't graduate from high school.
Yeah.
So I was waiting for I had to do this summer correspondence course, but my parents found this program with the church where they're like, hey, we'll let your kid come and do some classes at Brigham Young just to kind of help right the ship, to help get them back
nice.
on track. So I signed up for like an acting class, and then my mom made me sign up for like a missionary preparedness class. So, and I couldn't even find the acting class. Like I couldn't find which building it was in.
Yeah.
So I just dropped that one. And then the other class I went I think 3 times for like a whole summer.
Yeah.
And then when they sent the grade out, I just stole the mail, and my mom
Right.
never knew.
So what?
But I spent that whole summer just on I couldn't get a job because I was in this building that was not near anything. I didn't have a car.
Right.
So I just spent the whole summer and I lived with my brother, but it was like this house of 6 people.
Yeah.
And it was the weirdest something. Like, I was like, what am I doing out here? This is so fucking stupid.
I love like just how easily you gave up. I've been doing that more in my life. Like as soon as something's like a little inconvenient, I'm like, fuck this, I'm done.
Well,
Yeah.
I
Can't
am
find the
interested.
building,
So,
I'm
like,
out.
At that point, were you already over? Was it because it was school, or was it because it was Mormon? Like,
It was a little of both.
Yeah.
Like it was because Mormon, and it was school, and it's not something that I wanted to do. And that's like the thing that my parents noticed. They go, hey, how come when you want to do something, you throw yourself at it so hard? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe because all the things you guys ever wanted me to do I've shown no interest in.
Right.
So you just
like,
try to push me in this direction. Like Boy Scouts was a big thing for our family.
Right.
And so we had to get your Eagle Scout before you could get your driver's license. And so I had everything done before I was 16 years old because I wanted my driver's license because I wanted more freedom. And they're like, you were so good at Boy Scouts. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't like it.
Right.
Do you understand that? Like it was a means to an end.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I guess. But when you have 5 children, you're not paying that close attention.
Right.
You don't know your kids when you got that many.
Well, and I also think, like, man, like, I don't know. I tend to like. I had a lot of problems with my dad, and as I've gotten older, I tend to give parents the benefit of the doubt and just think like they're doing the best they know how. And like my guess
it
is
worked
like
on my
your parents-
older brothers.
Yeah, your parents are probably like, I don't know, like we want them, we want to make our kids like be members of society. Let's make them get their Eagle Scout, you know, and it's like I get where they're coming from, but for you, it's like you don't fucking want to do that.
I don't want to do that. I definitely was a terrible student because I had undiagnosed ADHD.
Right.
So sitting in class was just waiting to either make a joke or I'd fall asleep. Like because we'd have to get up early and like I'd stay up too late at night, so like I couldn't pay attention in school, and also had no motivation to do well in school because I hated school so much. The idea of going to college and having to do more school when I had no direction of what I wanted to do with my life, like there was nothing that I felt like I wanted to do that I couldn't just figure out on my own, which is like a little bit cocky and stupid.
No, it's cool. That's a good realization because what are you not now? You're not fucking $80,000 in debt.
Yeah,
I am just. I can write it off as a bankruptcy.
Yeah. Right. Chapter 11.
That's interesting that what you said about the undiagnosed ADHD and the not having trouble doing things you weren't interested in, because this is really cool. Like my buddy Greg Stone, who's a comedian, really funny guy. He has ADHD real bad, and he interviewed one of the leading ADHD experts in the country for a podcast, and the guy was basically like, stop trying to learn new things if you don't like them. The guy was basically like, you won't be able to. He was like, with this diagnosis, you need to take the things you want to do and do them, because you have no capacity to do things you don't have interest in, because you won't be able to drum up interest. Like, just fucking don't do it. And it was like, it really helped him because
it feels so good right
Yeah.
now, because there's so many times when things have been like even with something as simple as a TV show, when someone's like, you got to watch the show, it's the funniest show, but if I can't get into it, now if it's a show that I like right off the bat, I will fucking watch it and like learn everything I can about, or like a movie or even a book. Like if it's a book that I like, I can read it in a day.
Right.
But if it's a book that I have no interest in, I will read the first 10 pages and then do that again and then do that again. I go, no, can't do it. Can't concentrate. But
You ever heard of the 33 strategies of war?
Jimmy was bragging to me. Jimmy was bragging to me about how he's turned his life around, how he goes to the park every day and reads a book. And I started asking him what he was reading, and it's just like, Bill, it's literally like the reading list for the Aryan Brotherhood. It's like the Art of War, the 33 Laws
Sun
of
Tzu,
Power.
baby.
Like,
See, I read the Art of War because Patrice, like I was a fan of him, and so like I'm like, these are not anything that applies to my life. I guess he read it and it inspired him in some way. I read it and I was just like, I I don't think of people as my adversary
Yeah.
every moment of the day.
And you're like,
That's probably why it appeals to you so much because everyone
Is my
is your
adversary.
adversary. Yeah.
And you're like, I don't even have a horse. How can I flank him?
How can I?
It wasn't easy read though because it's all like sectioned off pretty.
Yeah,
so
it's like Confucius.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, it's like the one where it's like put your troops on death ground. So he's like basically telling them to like make your fucking troops like have to fight for their life, and you'll get the best results out of them.
Yeah.
Come in handy.
Could it, Jimmy? Do you have troops?
Not yet.
I don't want you to have troops.
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
don't. We don't need you to.
I could be a decent child soldier leader. I could lead a child army.
Yeah, if you were gonna say a decent like military leader, I would have been like, no, you can't. But you said child soldier leader, and I do kind of think you could because
Like
you're the
once he splits off this podcast to do his own thing, where he gets like a
Jimmy
bunch
Graham's-
of 17-year-olds to be like, "This is the guy. He's
Yeah.
got it figured out. He's got that Fight Club mentality."
It's my
Like,
spin-off podcast called Jimmy Graham's 1,000-Year Reich.
Great. Great, Jimmy. So you went on a mission.
I went
right?
on a mission. I went to the Philippines, and so I was. It took me a year before I was like. So I left when I was 20 instead of 19 because they have like purity clauses. I guess is a good way. Like you had to like if you had sex or anything like that, you weren't supposed to go without repenting. And I had a girlfriend, and we didn't have like full sex, but we like did oral sex.
Yeah,
and so I had to like
nice.
tell. So that's a weird thing too. You have to like come clean to this guy that is just a guy. Like it's not paid clergy in the Mormon
Right,
church.
right.
So he's the bishop.
Right.
And you tell him what you did, and then he basically decides your sentence. He'd be like,
basically goes home and jacks off thinking about what you
Probably,
did.
yeah.
Yeah.
and he's just like, "Wait, wasn't one of my daughters? Was
Yeah,
it?"
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of thing. He's like, "Good, I can still jerk off to it."
Yeah.
But it was so I had to wait a year because of that. And
So-
so,
You
that's
had a 1 year
What?
sentence or a
That's so
blowjob?
crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so what was happening? Was it like, were you going to classes during that year? Like,
like you just go to church
Yeah,
still,
and
and then
that
like my
cleans
grandma
you
would
up.
come over
Yeah.
and we'd talk. Like she didn't know about that stuff.
sure,
she just
but she knew you were on a.
she knew I was on a so she'd come over and we'd
Yeah.
like go through the lesson plans that you have as a missionary that you're supposed to
Right,
teach to
right.
people, and it was just the like that was so excruciating because it would take me 25 minutes to go through each lesson. It
Right.
didn't take that long, but it felt so long because my grandma's so sweet and so into the church,
Sure.
and that's all she ever. So like that's the only connection she's ever had with me. It was sitting with me for that half an hour every once a week.
Yeah.
And to me, she loves it, and I think back on that as like a terrible time.
Well, it's interesting because, like, you know, it's a little bit similar to my wife and her grandmother. They're not Mormons, but like her grandmother's extraordinarily religious, and they connect on that level. But my wife is not necessarily like there, so like in the same way. So it's like a hard. She enjoys the time with her grandma. Like it's a weird.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing where you're
You're
like,
giving a little bit more of yourself to make them happy.
Yeah, you're like,
Because
yeah.
I want to have this relationship. But
This seems real.
yeah. It's tough. So then
I love going to the baseball game. This is fun.
I go to the Philippines, spent 90 days in Provo again. It was like 60 days. I think it's 60 days in Provo. Like they give you like a crash course in the language. So that's kind of what I was able to throw myself into. That's what kept me sane.
Yeah.
Was learning to communicate was important to me. So I got really good at the language really fast because I didn't want to be in a foreign country that was already terrifying to me and also not know how to communicate with the people.
Right.
So that's like what I really focused on. And then I also really did try to convince myself like this is the true thing. This is what my parents, they're smart people. They know what's going on. So I really tried to like play this role and like be a good missionary. And for the first year I was doing it, but I was also a prick. I was like following all the rules, and it was making me so fucking depressed. Like I'd never been more depressed in my entire life than when I was doing what they were telling me would bring me happiness.
Right. Because it wasn't what you were wanting. Now,
Yeah.
were you? So how's that work? It's like you and one other dude, right? You get
Me
like
and
a
one other
partner?
dude, and we walk around and we talk to people and just try and get them to listen to these they're called discussions, and then you're trying to get them baptized into the Mormon
Would
church.
you ever get any?
I got like a fuck ton.
Really?
I got like 30 or 40.
Wow.
Because you're in a country where they're poorly educated and they're looking for hope. And so when a couple of people come and they're dressed nice, you're pitching them hope, and even if it's not for this life, it's for the next life.
Right.
So they're like, yeah, we'll buy in on that.
Oh,
and
wow.
so
Way better than this
that's
fucking
huge.
bullshit.
That's a great convert. We had these guys when I was working. Me and my brother were working in Alaska, and the only dudes we were friends with, really, there weren't a lot of people our age. The only dudes we were friends with were Mormon missionaries, and they were cool. And but we'd play Mario Kart, and but like I think they felt like they had to do their job.
Yeah.
So like every time they came over, we lived in a little cabin, and like every time they came over, like about 20 minutes in, they'd start on this pitch, and my brother would pause the game, because my brother's older, so my brother like took responsibility for both of us. My brother would pause the game and go, "I told you we're not fucking being Mormons." and then the guy would be like, "All right, man, I had to try, we got to report back."
Right, yeah, that's we got to do the pitch. That's all.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of how it started with me going down the route of being disobedient, as they'd call it.
Yeah.
Obedience was a big part of it, and like that's how you get your blessings. It was very karmic in a way, where they're like, if you're good things happen, kind of stuff, or if there is a challenge for a reason, blah blah blah, so it's going to bring you more blessings down the road. All this bullshit. And I was about a year in, and I was trying. They have different like leadership positions too.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to the leadership position that I wanted to as fast as I wanted
After
to.
40 fucking converts?
Well, that was after the whole 2 years,
Okay.
but like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but they just, and it really wasn't anything that I was doing wrong or anything
Right.
like that. It's just like how the numbers shook out.
Yeah.
And so I was really bummed out that I wasn't a senior companion first, because I was working really hard, and I thought I should have been of my batch of guys that got there at the same time. I thought I should have been the first one to be a senior companion, because I was so good at the language and I was getting conversions and
You're
stuff
gonna
like
make
that.
this cocksucker an elder, not me.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we're all elders, but it was just the senior companion.
I don't know
was the
anything
goal.
about it.
I know. So I don't get that, and then I get wildly depressed.
Sure.
Because I'm like, all right, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing, and it's still not working the way.
Right.
Is this some sort of fucking lesson God's trying to teach me? And then I also realized that I'm not well liked, because I'm so strict with the way that you're supposed to do everything that people just don't like me. And that felt real bad too.
Yeah.
Because I'm like a fun guy.
Well,
Like, I'm a pretty easy.
You're a very likable guy. You've always, since I've known you, you've always been a very likable guy.
Yeah.
So that's hard. I do not take well to not being liked.
Right.
Some people can be disliked and not give a fuck.
Right. Like Jimmy's able to pretend like he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, but like
It does burn. A
yeah,
little bit,
it
but
really. But like even
Yeah.
people I don't, even people I think are horrible, mean people.
Yeah.
If they don't like me, it bothers me.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
somebody that I respect.
Especially
That hurts.
Yeah, well,
So-
that's-
Other than that, I don't give a fuck.
So, and the one person in particular that didn't like me was so there's two missionaries that they're called the assistants to the president. So there's the mission president, and that's the guy. He's like an older guy, and he presides over all the missionaries. And he'll pick two missionaries that have been in there longer, and they kind of help him kind of know what's going on in all the different zones.
Yeah.
And this one guy just didn't like me, and and I was like, why do I give a fuck if this guy likes me or not?
Right.
And I was like real depressed. I was sitting, at this time we lived in a house where there was 6 missionaries living there, and we all go out to our different areas during the day. But then at night it was actually kind of fun, because we all just kind of tell stories about the day, and like I started to feel like better about certain things, but I still real depressed about how much of a prick I felt like I was. Like I felt like my dad. I felt like my dad, and
Now-
that didn't make me happy.
Let me just jump in real quick. Like, so when you're all talking at night, so you got like you're with a bunch of missionaries. About how many? You hang out.
So in this house there were 6 of us.
Okay, so there's 6 of you all hanging out. Like, to what degree at this point, I guess, is it like on the up and up? Like, does anyone ever say fuck? Like,
we had our own swear words. So like,
Wow. Can I learn it?
yeah. Well, it'd be like you'd say fetch, but even like there'd even be missionaries would be like, we shouldn't say fetch, guys, because we're just replacing fuck with fetch. So it'd be like, so a lot of frick and fetch and stuff like that.
And
like you
I'm gonna
and
fetch
shiz,
you in your
you'd say shiz, things like that. Like it'd
Okay.
be all these stupid words that you'd use rather than swearing. And as my progression happened, it started with me getting super depressed. I'm like ready to kill myself. Like I'm sitting. We go up on the roof. We could there's a ladder we go up, and I go up there, and I'm just sitting there on the edge of the roof, just like I think I might just push myself off. I might just jump and just end it all, and then the logistics of like how are they gonna get my body home? Like that's kind of what stopped me from doing it. It's like I don't know how they're gonna get my body home, which I think
they'd have figured it out.
I know they would, but it's just one of those things where like I feel, and it really was just I didn't really want to do it.
No, it's weird.
Yeah.
But when you're in that place, it is weird where there's like things start coming into your mind where you're like, who's gonna like? What if they find this in my drawer? I better not do it.
Yeah, you
like,
got that.
shit
And then
like
even
that.
like there's a lot of wild dogs in the Philippines. I'm like, I don't want my body to get eaten either. Like I don't want, like that would like
that's specifically in my will. Yeah. I'd love my body to get eaten.
Yeah, I'd be sick.
And that was second. That was the second time I had that kind of throw myself off of something. So before
Happy you didn't, by the way. Buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Before I came clean about like the blowjobs and stuff, I had this big fight with my parents, and I remember screaming at my mom like, I'm going to kill myself if I have to do this. Right. And she's like, how? And I was like, I'm going to throw myself off the roof. And she's like, it's not even high enough.
Well, I mean, I'm like, dude,
I'm like, I'll go head first. And she's just like,
that's really funny that she said that. But also like, man, for a 17, 18-year-old kid to have to go confess like his sexual history to it, like that's
in the most
lot.
shameful, like not
dude,
like, hey, is this okay? Like, and like, you know, like I have stepkids that I've raised as my own, and they are sexually active, and we never had weird conversations because I never made it a big deal.
Right.
Like I was just like, don't get pregnant, be safe, don't do anything you don't want to do.
Right.
And so that, like, they didn't have any problem. Like my dad would be like, hey, I got to go to Planned Parenthood.
Right.
I think we might have a little, we might have had an oopsie. And I'm like, get in the car, let's go.
Right.
Like I didn't shame her about it or anything. Like shit happens.
Right.
If you do that to boys, that's where you create serial killers too. Just like you little fucking heathen.
Well, but I mean, like Bill's saying, I mean, I could see how that could lead to like suicidal
right now.
Or
if you fucking like got into my Google search history,
someone else would kill you.
I'll fucking nope. I'm out, baby. I'm checking out.
So you're on that roof. You're having that thought. Is that like a turning point?
Yeah, that's the turning point. And so what I did is like this is in the middle of the night. Everybody's sleeping. So then I just like was fuck it. I'm gonna jack off and then go to sleep. So I jack off. I go to sleep. I feel much better the next day, and I just start going. Kind of like I just relax a little bit, and then I get sent to another area.
And are you sorry to interrupt? You're not supposed to jack off.
No,
right?
no,
It's
no.
a big no.
It's not like a big no, but like they don't want you to. Like and then like I kind of realized that because I ended up telling my mission president, I'm like, hey, and he's like, just keep it under control. Like he's kind of like, he's like, don't it's a release. It's fine.
Don't
like,
tell me that
don't
again.
that kind of thing.
Smoking weed.
He's like, is this a problem, or is it like you're doing it like to maintain the? And I was like, okay, so that was a nice little relief there. So I'm like, okay, I'm not the biggest piece of shit because everything felt so life and death with sin to me.
Right.
And then once I realized, like, okay, there's gray areas here. I'm like, well, let's push the envelope a little bit. And there's a lot of weird stuff with the Mormon Church that you're like, especially when you're a missionary, they're not supposed to do. And is looking back now, I'm like, oh, this is all insurance liability stuff, but they sell it as sin or like being disobedient. So one of the things well, we weren't allowed to watch TV or movies or music or anything like that. So that's kind of where we started, like me and this other missionary, Elder Baldwin. We started going to movies, and then we started buying like bootleg DVDs, and we bought like this little tiny TV, and that's what we do. We go out and do the work during the day, and then at night we'd relax and watch Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, we just wanted to fucking feel a little more normal.
Right.
And then we went and saw Matrix Reloaded, and like when I found out that people in this country hated that movie, it blew my mind.
They did?
That's like when I came home and I was like, Matrix Reloaded, let's talk about it. Everybody's like, well, we didn't like it.
What?
And I was like, what the fuck? I love that movie. That was
Is that
like,
the second or the third?
That's the second one.
Because they're all amazing, but I
Yeah.
love the second.
I love the second one too. And I fucking was so, and seeing it in the theater after, and I love movies.
Yeah.
So seeing it in the movie theater after I haven't seen a movie in like a year
Yeah.
is just like the best day of my life.
yeah.
And we're kind of bragging about it. So we get in trouble because someone rats us out. And then I kind of had this up and down missionary career from then on. But then I get to a point where I'm like a leader. So there's different leaders. There's district leaders and there's zone leaders.
Yeah.
And I get promoted to zone leader because I was good at giving presentations and stuff like that. And it's kind of the origins of me doing comedy.
Right.
Because I didn't care about teaching the about the gospel, but there were good lessons to teach.
Right.
There's good, parables with all that.
Sure.
And so when I was able to make that my own, tell my own stories and kind of present those like ideas of being a good person, I was all for that. I like that. And so that's why I became a zone leader. But while I was doing that, I was also going down the disobedient path. So me and this other missionary we got phones, we got girlfriends, and we got some more. Like I got a bunch of girlfriends. He kind of stuck with one.
Yeah.
And then, like one day we went to a little resort, like a cheap little Filipino resort.
Yeah.
And you weren't supposed to go swimming as a missionary because they said that Satan controls the seas.
We all know that.
And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's Poseidon, but whatever. But we weren't supposed to go. But we go to this resort and like we get these little like private cabanas. There's nobody else even there. So me and my girl going one, the other dude and his girl going one, but all the other missionaries are like, where are you guys at? And we're like, come here. And so like other guys that weren't as disobedient, but they would like kind of fuck around a little bit, came and met us there. And like we all went swimming.
Yeah.
And it was one of the funniest things to be like, okay, it's just a bunch of dudes from America going on a water slide, but they felt like they were doing the baddest shit they've ever done.
Yeah, like the Hells Angels.
Yeah. It's so that was fucking hilarious to me. And then we started going to strip clubs and I drank. Yeah.
Getting ready to go down the water slide.
I got a Spider-Man DVD, baby.
It's a bootleg. So we started. We went to a strip club. We brought the strippers back to our
I bet
place.
a Filipino strip club
Dude,
is
they're
great.
freaking so
I bet
good.
$5 gets you all sorts of.
Well, I got my dick sucked for 30.
That's pretty good.
But I didn't go back to the room. I just had her suck my dick in front of the other missionaries because I
Sure.
didn't feel like safe going to the room.
That's a boss move.
Yeah. That
I'm
was
the zone leader.
Yeah.
I'm the zone leader.
that was the day when they're like, "Oh, Bill's on some different shit."
Yeah. Bill is being very disobedient.
Yeah.
He's past water slides.
Yes. So
Go from water slides to getting your dick sucked.
in front of my
them.
friends, yeah.
That rocks.
And so then like we got to know some of the strippers came over one time, and then like that's when it all started to fall apart. When they came to our house, our landlord ratted us out because they weren't Mormon, but they knew we weren't supposed to have girls over, and that's when I had to come clean on everything to the mission president. And I took the whole blame. Like
Sure,
I didn't say
yeah.
anybody was doing anything else. I just said like I've been fucking around doing stuff.
Like I watched Spider-Man, went on
Yeah.
a water slide, and got my
Well,
dick sucked in front of everyone.
Well, at first I just told them that I kissed a girl, and then later, like they had this whole like disciplinary meeting,
Yeah.
and that's where they excommunicated me. And the only reason they had the disciplinary meeting is because I was telling people that the church wasn't true at that point.
Okay.
Oh,
and
so
so
you
that
were
was
really
getting around.
down, yeah.
I was like, guys, none of this fucking matters. None of this
Oh.
stuff is like it.
You had
just
seen
doesn't-
the light.
Like there's no real facts that we're
The
we're
devil
living through.
doesn't
Yeah.
control the seed.
Yeah, the devil, like, none of this stuff
He
matters.
controls it all.
And so then one of the guys rats me out on that, and they're going to bring me in, and they're just going to disfellowship me at this point, which means, like, you're, like, demoted a little bit.
Knocked down,
But, yeah,
busted down to private.
Yeah, and then I was like, well, I'm here. Let me tell you all this. It's actually a lot more emotional than that. Like, I'm, like, bawling, and I'm like, here's all the things I did. I don't know about this church anymore. Like, I just got to get it all out there.
Yep.
And so I tell them everything they do. They kick me out of the church immediately. I get sent home a week before I was actually supposed to go home. So if I could have, like, kept it tight for another week, I would have gone home. My parents would have been like, "Oh, you're a good missionary. You did it." And, like, but instead I come home a week early. They make me take off my garments, the magic underwear. I can't wear those anymore. And that, like, starts me down the path of doing comedy, because it's like, back to the ADHD thing. Like, I couldn't go to college. I didn't want, like, I signed up. I was looking to, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't put my time into that. So I just threw myself into comedy right when I got home.
Let me ask you this. So you didn't quit. You probably would have, it sounds like, but you were excommunicated.
Yeah.
By them. And and is in the Mormon church, is that permanent? Is there a way back in?
So it's not permanent, because I actually did get rebaptized a year later, because I was still living with my parents. So I had to go through the motions for the most part for the next year until I moved out.
Right.
And so I went through their repentance process, but again, I was doing, like, real half-assed. Like, I was just doing the bare minimum to show face, to, like, make sure that I wasn't homeless.
Yeah.
And then once I moved to Tremont, right over here, actually, in 2006. Get home halfway through 2004, do comedy, start working the road within, like, a year.
Yeah.
And that's when, like, I was like, okay, I can do this.
Right.
And then 2006, I had a pretty good schedule, and I was working at the Improv a lot, and I worked there as a doorman too on weeks that I didn't have stand up, and so I was like, it was going pretty well. And, like, that day that I moved out of my parents' house into that Tremont apartment was the last day I ever did anything with church.
Really?
Yeah.
And I think this will be the last thing for today because of time, but I'd like to, would you, it doesn't have to be next week or whenever, but would you come back and do a Bill Squire part 2?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think there's a lot more I want to touch on with you. And it's just,
because I got all the stepkid years and stuff.
Yeah,
too.
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about radio.
Learn some more of those fucking Mormon cuss words.
Yeah, and I this is just fascinating stuff. But the last thing today I want to talk about is because we've been talking to people, and, like, everyone seems to have a varying level of where they're at mental health wise, and a lot of it seems to come back to family relationships.
Yeah.
And so, what impact did that have with your family?
It's strange because it made things worse, but also made them better.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot more honesty now.
Right.
So, like, I realized how much I was doing just to try and appease my parents, and now I don't have to do that in the same way. So we kind of get to just enjoy and love each other for who we are versus what we think we're supposed to be. And at times too, like I don't like that I couldn't be honest, and I, like, hurt my parents' feelings so badly,
right?
Because it meant so much to them for me to be Mormon and do everything that they had. They provided me with a good life. It's not like they're bad parents. They just had different ideas, and I can't really go down that path that they wanted me to go down.
Well, it's also interesting because, like, I think I was reading that someone's frontal lobe is not done fully developed till you're 27. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to be, like, mad at yourself for not being more honest when you were, like, 18, 19, because it's like you have
no idea how to do it.
You're a child and you're listening to your parents. Like, I get it, you're a little bit older, you have some, you can fuck, you can drive a car, but you're still a kid, you know, like, it is hard to speak those truths to your, and you're still reliant on your parents.
Absolutely.
In a lot of ways,
and that's the thing too, is everything was kind of conditional on being a good Mormon. Right. So, like, I didn't know that, like, if I did a certain thing, I thought they were going to cut me off and never talk to me again. Right. And I didn't want that. And there was a time, like, the most honest conversation that I've ever had with my dad was probably 2008 or 2009. and he just sat me down, and he's like,
This Obama fella.
This is when he.
Can you believe this guy?
Some people's
we can do
frontal
a
lobes.
whole.
Sorry.
Some people's frontal lobes never develop. Jimmy Graham.
I'm sorry.
So he sits me down, and this is when they find out that I haven't been going to church. Like I didn't tell him, I just stopped going, and he just asked me. He's like, so you haven't been going to church? And I was like, no, I haven't gone for 3 years. And he says, do you even believe in God? And I said, no. And like it was so natural to just say it.
Right.
Like I couldn't like hold back anymore. Right. Like I couldn't be like, oh, there's some sort of God. I'm like, no, it just doesn't work for me. Yeah. And that's the last time we ever talked about it. And he didn't ask me a follow-up question. He just goes, okay, my son doesn't believe in God. I do. And that was that.
That's kind of
nice.
Best case scenario.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I mean, you hear so many stories of people, you know, estranged, you know, like.
And we're like estranged to a certain point where like we still see each other and we have a good time, but we just know there's certain things that in a relationship that we don't talk about.
Right.
Like I can't talk to him about politics because he is too far down this, like he's not QAnon, but he's like that way.
Right.
And he's into conspiracies, but it's because he's got everything lined up with these bananas religious beliefs that he has.
Right.
And so that helps him feel like he's doing the right thing. And like he's a good grandpa, he's a nice guy. So as long as you don't bring that shit up, you can enjoy him.
I was
He could have got you back into it too if you would have just asked one follow-up question where he's like, do you believe in God, Bill? You say no, and he says, have you ever seen Billy Joel live at Madison Square Garden? Because if that's not proof that there is a God, then I don't know what is.
Well, he already took me to see Billy Joel at Richfield Coliseum, so River Dreams Tour, 1991.
Have you ever seen Madonna live?
I wrote for a little bit. I wrote for this really like fucking low level reality TV production company, and they like their big hit was like Bigfoot Hunter, and I wrote on this show called Amish Mafia.
Oh, I watched that show.
Yeah. It was
really?
100% fake.
Of course,
the whole thing was totally fake.
Wait, you're saying that the Amish aren't really mafia?
Oh no! I watched what's the Amish one where they sent them into the city?
Oh, that's like Breaking Amish.
Yeah, I watched that one.
No, that's a quality show.
Yeah.
I was on the shit version of that.
Okay.
But another one they were working on when I got fired. I got fired because they basically were like stringing along this like guy in Florida who was like a prepper, you know, like a doomsday prepper. They were, and he was slow, like he was mentally disabled, and they were stringing him along, saying that
he probably had more money than any of us combined.
Yeah, they were stringing him along, telling him they were going to do a zombie hunting show with him, and he was talking to me on the phone because I was like helping to kind of design what it would be, because they were like, everyone loves Bigfoot Hunter, we're gonna do the zombie hunter. I'm like, oh, there's no zombies, so this is gonna be tough, but we'll figure it out. But he tells me, he goes,
no Bigfoot either.
The guy goes, so I'm gonna quit. This sounds good. I'm gonna quit my job down at the Circle K, and I go, hey man, I gotta be honest with you. A lot of times, like, these things don't happen. Like, just keep your job. Like, just kind of being a good guy.
Yeah.
And like 3 days later, there was like the boss comes like screaming through the office, like, who told that motherfucker this might not happen? Like, just for being a good guy, they fired me because I told some slow guy not to quit his job for a show that never did happen.
Right.
But anyway, one of the shows I worked on was a Mormon show, and I don't know if you're familiar with this. It was about couples where the husband had what they called SSA, and that was same-sex attraction.
Oh, man.
So it was so sad because it was like, dude, you're gay.
You're gay.
It's
Just
fine,
be-
man.
just
It's
be
fine.
gay.
But it was like they called it SSA. They went to meetings. They were
Yeah.
like open with their wives, and their wives were like, my husband's dealing with his SSA.
I'm
And
so impressed by his strength. kind of shit. Oh,
he's
man.
just really being honest, and it's like, no, he's gay.
gay. Just
stop it.
No, I like this. 'Cause We've been having issues with me on this podcast. Now I'm just going to say SSA.
But Bill, I can't thank you enough. And I want
Thanks for coming, buddy.
I want to do a part 2. So check out the album Bam Bam, and check out. I believe if you're not in the Cleveland area, I think you can listen to the Alan Cox Show online.
Yeah,
right?
you can listen to it. So we do a YouTube stream, and then we also do. There's a live stream of it on iHeartRadio while we're on live. And then also we podcast every episode too.
Great.
So there's lots of ways to check it
Yeah,
out.
and it's super fun.
Bill
show.
Squire show as well.
Yeah,
podcast.
and so check out where isn't that available wherever you get. So Bill Squire show wherever you get your podcast, and we're gonna have Bill on again for part 2 because we barely made it through I don't know.
I'm
the
just
age
starting.
of 24.
Yeah. I'm like 22 at this.
Yeah. So we got
20,
more Bill to come. Jimmie, what's that date at Coda? I'm running a whole new hour. It's going to be all brand new stuff. Nothing that has been on my album. I believe it is October 23rd, but it's going to be nothing that was on my last album, all full new stuff, so it's probably will be bad, but it's at least going to be new.
It's 23rd at Coda in Tremont.
Yeah.
And that's going to be fun. It'll be opening for you.
Here's the thing, guys. I know you hear it on the fucking bumpers and all that shit, but it really does help us, especially it helps Jimmie. Jimmie's a guy that needs help. If you rate the show, review it, subscribe, leaving a review would be huge. And then if you like it, here's the thing. The Patreons have a little bit of a different feel. It's usually just me and Jimmie, and they get real intimate. Like we always admit shit that we're both embarrassed about. So go to patreon.com, Shitbrains Show. To sign up for that. There's a $5 level, $10 level, $15. It's standard Patreon shit. But yeah, I think you'd enjoy it. There's been some pretty great episodes lately. Anything else you need to plug, Bill?
No, that's all. I mean, and yeah, get to the Patreon. I'm actually probably going to get onto the Patreon just because I like when you have people on, but I also I want to hear more of Jimmie's brain. Yeah, that's what the Patreon is really just an ongoing interview with Jimmie. And I want to have some distance from it. I feel like I know Jimmie pretty well, but I feel
dark. Bill and I, we host, if you're local, we host a crowdwork show called Jokes on You last Sunday of every month at Hilarities.
It's a blast. I think it's a ticking time bomb, but it's a blast.
Oh, the time bomb's gone off. A couple of months ago, we had one that almost ripped the whole scene apart. But,
fabric. Also, I will note that we made it through an entire hour without Jeremy butting in.
No, he did.
Did he?
You made a great joke, and then he goes, some people's frontal lobes still aren't developed.
I thought we got there. I thought we got through it.
Oh, he didn't laugh at that. I'm just kidding, Jeremy. I'm just kidding. I love you.
We love you.
I was going to edit that part out. Now I can't. Damn it.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Hey, thanks.
Hey guys, it's Brendan. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Shit Brains. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit that subscribe button, you review it, you rate it, all of that stuff really helps the algorithm. Throw us a follow at Shitbrains Show on Instagram and Twitter, Shitbrains Show on YouTube. You can email us your questions at shitbrainshow@gmail.com. We even have, for you hardcore fans, a Facebook group where you can go and you can chat and meet up with other fans. That's Shitbrains Show on Facebook. So, and then of course, if you really like it and you want some bonus content, we're coming out with a bonus episode every single week, plus a lot of other bonus content. You're going to want to get on there and check it out. Go to patreon.com/shitbrainshow. Later, Shitbrains.